So what is up, guys? You got your boy Stingren here today, and today we're here with a bit of an interesting video here today. Today I'm actually going to be talking about 10 characters I would love to see in the city of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. This video really came up to me by an idea that I had kind of looming in my head. I kind of really wanted to talk about this like years ago, but as more and more characters that I had on my original top 10 list made it into the game, I said, well, I'm gonna have to remake this list and I'm gonna have to tweak the video, make it a little bit different, and well, go on from there. So in this video I will be talking about 10 characters I would love to see in Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. And in this video I have a few rules and things I have to say before getting started. First, there may be some story spoilers for some of the characters listed in the video. I do say this now as a formal warning, so if you have not played certain characters, feel free to skip past the timestamp or just simply click off of the video. Another thing is, I will not be giving full kit dives into what I would like the character to do, maybe just a little bit of tidbit as to what I would like to see. Maybe I might want a character to be a wind enchant DPS, I might want the character to be specializing in debuffing, you know, it's just kind of things like that. I don't want to have to go through the whole skill 1, skill 2, skill EX, C65, ETC. I'm not going to go through that in this video here. I'm just mainly going to be talking about things I would like for them to do as to why I would like for them to have that. So I will be giving a little bit of a speculation on that as well, but for the most part it's mainly just going to be my 10 characters I would love to see in this mobile game that I still play. Coming in at number 10 will be Larsa Solidor. I will be interested in seeing Larsa Solidor for a few reasons. One, he is Vayne's little brother, which of course we do have Vayne already in the game, and he is a guest NPC character that does appear within a part of Final Fantasy XII. Well, if you don't know, I personally would love to just see Vayne and Larsa have some type of synergy together. For example, while Vayne's all about getting breaks and having multiple turns to abuse for his DPS, Larsa could be a unit that could potentially start throwing debuffs and even having a buff healing effect or a buff follow-up effect that heals all allies based on his mechanics in Final Fantasy XII. If you don't know, as a guest NPC, Larsa has the ability to have an endless supply of high potions, which he will use to help teammates in battle. So for example, like Freya's Lancet, who can heal all allies while being in the air, Larsa could potentially be a character while on land that can do the very same gimmick by endlessly throwing HP healing onto the allies when a ally takes a turn or whenever he takes his own turn. That would be really cool to see. While Freya's follow-up in the air isn't permanent, she has to come down at some point, but Larsa could just be there and just keep on doing the thing as long as he has maybe the required buff active too for him to keep doing this. So that is something that I would like to see there. I would also love to see him get some type of unique debuff effect similarly to Cypher's EX, and maybe how similar to how Celeste's mechanic works. If you guys don't know, Celeste is the tank that can absorb magic brave damage, but the main reason why I would want Larsa to have this type of effect is because he does receive a manufactured Nethicite from Penelo in Final Fantasy XII, and if you don't know what that item does, it is an item that reduces magic and or absorbs depending on the amount of manufactured Nethicite that you have equipped to that certain character. So maybe it could be a stacked based debuff that can gradually get stronger for magic based enemies. Celeste is the only unit in the game that is hyper focused on dealing with magic based enemies. Of course this was changed with her BT+, but for the most part she was hyper focused for that type of gimmick. And Celeste, while being able to now be a fully functional tank of her own, Larsa could just be that unit who can help with magic mitigation while being immediately better than Hope, who does have a similar gimmick that can reduce magic brave damage of his own due to shell. What I love to see with this unique debuff is basically however high stack the debuff is determines what the debuff would do. So for example, if it's just one stack of the debuff, it can maybe be like a 50% magic brave mitigation or HP damage mitigation effect. Stack 2 could be 80% mitigation and HP damage cut, and then stack 3 would just be straight up absorbing the brave and then reducing the HP damage as well. So that could be potentially a thing that I would like to see with Larsa. It is, well, Cool. And this would actually make him a bit different from Celeste, because Celeste is a tank, while Larsa would be primarily be painted as a support type of character, at least personally in my mind from what I'm getting from his functionality within Final Fantasy. I would like them to see him be kind of a supporty type character. So having more characters that can do open world things could be potentially a nice gain for Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Coming in at number 9 will be Astos from Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Now the main reason why I want Astos is because, well, the developers are probably going to put all the main characters from Stranger of Paradise in the game. We don't know how soon, but we already have one in Neon, and we already know that Ash, Jed, and Sophia are definitely going to be making their way into the game at some point of time. It's just a matter of when. If you guys don't know, Astos is the primary figure that has been guiding Jack and friends to the elemental crystals and what they needed to do in the base game. But in the game, he does appear as a boss fight, and he is primarily a dark type of person where he uses a lot of dark type skills. So my immediate assumption, he will probably just be a dark enchant DPS unit, which would be amazing because we don't have a lot of dark support in the game. The dark units that we have that are enchant based generally aren't the most good characters right now. Shantoto isn't very good right now, nor is Zond. So it's definitely going to be a big gain if we get someone like Astos who can do dark DPS and can do a nice healthy enchant and be a sustainable figure in the game. For his BT, I want just one thing, and I do want the ability for him to transform into Ultima weapon, the Origin. Now, this is the second part of his fight, if you did not know and did not play Stranger of Paradise. That is the second part of his fight, and I would just love for him to just be able to transform into it. Now, I'm sure with all transforming BTs, they don't stay as that form. Of course, I don't know how you were able to get a life-size Ultima weapon, the Origin, as a slot with 2 other units, but even just him being able to transform into that would just be something I would just love to see. I would love to have seen this with Neon's BT, where she could have transformed into Merilith, which would have been a nice thing there, but unfortunately we didn't get that. Maybe Astos would be the character that could potentially give us that type of transformation, and yeah. But that's mainly just what I would like to see with the boy Astos. A strong dark DPS unit that can, well, hang with the big dogs, because we need more elemental representation. Our elements right now in Opera Omnia aren't doing the best, but currently fire is doing very good, as we're getting a lot of units centered around that element. We just got Vivi, we got Neon, and Ruby Conte's coming out later this month. So there's definitely room for the other elements to grow. So I'm hoping that we can get someone like a good dark unit, because that's been an element that's never really been in the main spotlight, I feel anyway. So there's that. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Amarant from Final Fantasy IX. Now, I ask this question every single time. Why hasn't he been added into the game yet? He is 1, in data mine hell, and 2, he will be the last main party member in Final Fantasy IX. Literally everyone else is in the game but Amarant. At this point, I'm not even surprised they even add Lonnie, which is the character he was first accompanied with before Amarant. I just feel like they're skipping everyone before Amarant, which is annoying to me, because it's like, if he's there, make him work, and that's just that. But for me, I would love to see Amarant be a tank, as Final Fantasy IX does not have a real defined tank. While we do have units that can reduce damage, such as Beatrix, and have very strong defensive buffs like Steiner for example, I would love for Amarant to be a tank that specializes on defense scaling. Yes, bringing a new gimmick into the game. Because for what it's worth, defense is probably one of the most useless stats in the game, because there's no character that gets a real benefit from it outside of just being, well, able to reduce the damage that you intake. But what if, and bear with me here, that we use a character such as Amarant that scales damage instead of his attack stat, but with his defense stat? Now this is not the most brain-blowing thing out there. There's characters in FFBE, for example, that have a similar gimmick where their attacks, instead of using the normal scaling for damage, would use defense or spirit as a normally defensive stat for them, as a way of them dealing damage. That's a thing that they've been able to do, and I would love to see Opera Omnia's own interpretation of that type of effect, because out of all the stats in the game, there is at least some character that can have some type of benefit from that stat. There's HP, for example. Lena has a great boost of effects with party members having similar HP. The same thing with Porum. Brave, most regen bots love that. Attack, literally who doesn't need attack? Brave, same. There's a lot of things that can get that, but there's literally no dire use for you to ever need more defense than what's given to you with max ultimate armor and weapons. There's nothing. You don't need to roll a defense 126 ever in life. That's one of the most wasted things in the game, because nobody needs it, because we have so many ways of negating damage, reducing damage, denying getting turns. But I would love to see a unit that can actually scale around this gimmick and make them a bit unique for the time being, because that would be something that makes a little bit more exciting for me. Because whenever I see a character, I know, well, attacking and brave is definitely going to be a focus somewhere in their kit. Maybe some brave, maybe something else, but for the most part, defense has been the set that has been ignored for far too long, and I definitely want to see some interpretation of that. And yeah, now I do think Amarant will be a counter tank, because all of his weapons in Final Fantasy X do have the counter ability, so obviously that will make him just more of a tanky bruiser type of character. So just get out there and make him, and get him out of data mine hell already, devs, please and thank you. Coming in at number 7 is going to be Ultima the High Seraph from Final Fantasy Tactics. Now before you throw tomatoes at my face and tell me what a dumb pick this is, hear me out. I really wanted to pick a character that was an antagonistic character from Final Fantasy Tactics. While the most obvious pick would have been Delita, I wanted to dig a little bit deep into the box before I started getting the more simple expected picks out there, because there are some that, well, you just heard one, and there's a few more in here that I really wanted to dig up and see. So I wanted to pick something that not a lot of people will probably talk about, and that is Ultima the High Seraph, who is, well, the main final boss of the game. And I would have loved for her to be a direct opposite of the game's current two characters, Rams and Agrius, who are support-based characters who can do things like buff up your party's damage and stuff like that. I would love for Ultima to be, well, the opposite of support, which would be debuff, which holds true to her fight. In her fight, she has a skill called Grand Cross, which can cause a lot of debuffs on the enemy, status afflictions, and stuff like that. So if you really want to hold true to the game, you can do that very same skill, which is Grand Cross, and you can put that into Ultima's kit, probably maybe even just as her EX ability, which I would be completely fine with. Give it to her as an EX, and then maybe inflict a myriad of debuffs. She can also be similarly to Yuffie, who is the current holder for the maximum amount of debuffs that can be placed on a character. Yuffie can inflict a total of 8 debuffs, which is the max of the debuff slot, right? Ultima the High Seraph could be the second, which I wouldn't be objectified against. I wouldn't be the character to be like, oh man, someone who's overtaking Yuffie. I really wouldn't be worried about that. And there's that. And to throw even more spit in the face of Ramza as a direct opposite of him, I would love for Ultima the High Seraph to have her own version of Ultima, which she does have in her fight, by the way, to be used as her BT animation, similarly to Ramza, and then it could just do a similar effect. I would also love for maybe Ultima the High Seraph to maybe have a similar effect, such as Kefka and Eo Narsh, where she gets stronger brave damage and stuff, where it's based on the enemy's debuffs. So however many debuffs that the enemy have is going to boost up the effect, which of course can very well scale up to some nice numbers and stuff like that, which will make her a pretty good partner for Little Set FR, all things considered. So that's a pretty good thing there, but that's mainly just the basic thing I would want from that character. Is I would just want her to be a straight up debuffer, being able to inflict a lot of status downs, a lot of brave HP damage ups and stuff, and then have a type of gimmick where she can get stronger based off of those debuffs as well. So that's going to be my number 7 pick there. Coming in at number 6 is going to be Hauyn from World of Final Fantasy. I would love to see Hauyn because she is the adopted sister of Lan and Rain, and she also has the ability to summon mirages as well. She has a bit of a tragic backstory, but that is not my main reason for why I want her. I actually do like Hauyn in World of Final Fantasy. She seems like a pretty cool character, and I would love for her to have some representation in this game as well. She also has the ability to summon mirages similarly to our main protagonist, but she does specialize in one, similarly to someone else we do have in Opera Omnia being Anacro in her specialization of the Omega God Mirage. Hauyn's Mirage would actually be Sylph. Sylph is a wind-based Mirage that is able to support and do a little bit of effects as well, which will automatically cast. Hauyn herself as a wind support character, and that would actually be good because wind doesn't have much going for it right now. And of course, having another support role will always be welcomed in this game. Support is a very heavily invested into role, so it's always nice to have more options for potential game-breaking units that could be support. I'm not saying Hauyn would be game-breaking, but Sylph itself has a lot going for it because of what it can do, right? So, if you guys don't know, if they were to use Sylph as the main basis for Hauyn's kit, it has a lot of things going for it. One of the things is Endless Blessings, which is its unique trait, which can basically act as a Yuna Hope C50 boost, because what Endless Blessings does in the game is it extends buff times for skills, right? So if we were to put this into an Opera Omnia sense, we can maybe just say it gives +1 to buffs, which would be very good. She has access to Silent Voice, which is Oblivion, which is our own version of being stunned or confused, which is completely fine. We have Lullaby, which is basically Edward's LD. We have Cura and Balanska. Now Cura and Balanska can actually be incorporated into its own unique thing. Cura of course can be its heal, but Balanska could be essentially a party dispel similarly to Penelo and Yuna as well. This could kind of coin her as maybe a win Yuna, maybe in a way, but I mean it's not like we don't have characters that are already prime examples of another character, if not better. So it's not like Hauyn becoming a win Yuna would necessarily be a death sentence for her. It wouldn't be. It would just be, you know, a different character taking a different spin with adding other things. So she can have that whole Edward thing. She can have the, you know, the wind element as an advantage. You know, there's things that will make her different from Yuna just being quote unquote just wind. So that is my main reason for wanting Hauyn. I just do like her a lot. There's no real like, dear God, she's like a super cool character, but I just really like Hauyn. I just loved her in World of Final Fantasy. I loved the interaction of her and her introduction in the game, and of course her story significance. So that's why I want number 6 to be Hauyn. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Tseng from Final Fantasy VII. Now the main reason why I wanted Tseng is because, well, admittedly, I just really like the character. That's it. There's no real deep, dire reason between there's just more Turks in the game. Outside of that, you know, we have Rena Root and Cisne in the game who are all Turks. So that's kind of the only thing I could really say. The big reason why I wanted Tseng, admittedly. And for his kit, I kind of hit a brain fart on this one actually. I know this may sound like a little bit of a cop-out because I couldn't really draw up a kit, but I couldn't really find anything for a song that I want to do because there are no records of him fighting in any sort of games outside of the training dummy and Before Crisis, I believe was the game, and there wasn't nothing notable made there. And most of the fighting is left up to the other Turks. Like, that's the thing. Most of the other Turks do the fighting. He's just the one that's just leading them. I feel like that's just the thing. You know, he's like their leader. So I don't know what I was gonna do with the kit there. But I even tried to extend it a little bit further by taking a look at the roles of characters for Final Fantasy VII. You know, like attacker, debuffer, healer, tank, etc. And well, for the most part, that's completely covered by everyone, which would not be the most hardest thing to imagine with Final Fantasy VII having the most total characters in the game. So it was really hard for me to really come up with something for Tseng. I really just like the character. I don't even care whatever the devs give to him, as long as they just say, well, Tseng's coming. If they say he's coming, that's enough for me to be excited. I'll be like, bet, gonna go and try for him. But yeah, the best thing I really thought of with Tseng immediately was maybe kind of being like a hybrid of the other Turks that are in the game. Kind of like taking gimmicks from them and then maybe doing something else, maybe making it some type of unique thing. But in all, it didn't really make sense, so I just kind of decided to scrap the idea. I was like, it doesn't really fit a character who takes gimmicks from the same game. You know, like, I'm okay with giving characters gimmicks, but they're from a different series. Like, if for example, how Jack has the red crystal thing similarly to Jegrin, I'm okay with that because, well, they're from two different games. They're not from the same game. So yeah, but that's my big reason. I really just want Tseng because he looks cool. That's it. I just want it because he looks cool. That's the only reason. But anyway, there is that. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Nimbus from Final Fantasy Type O. Now I want Nimbus for one reason and one reason only. He's fucking broken. Like, that's the only reason. Dude is a monster. Dude runs fades without even trying to run fades, my guy. Like, you can't tell me that's not exciting. But anyway, the main reason why I really want Nimbus is because he just looks dope, man. Look at him. Look at him. He looks amazing. Anyway, what I would expect him to be, since basically he's the type of person that does optic weapons with beams of light, it immediately screams holy DPS. But here's the thing, I would want him to be a self-holy DPSer. I know that's a bit frowned upon in terms of today's meta, because most enchants go to party with not within FR or their BT or LD or just a general effect. Everybody that has a holy element has a way of giving it to the party in the game right now. Even Yuri, who was normally the holy DPS that was more so for self, got it with his FR being active, I believe. So they could do the same thing maybe with Nimbus, maybe just allowing it to be strictly for his FR. I wouldn't be too against that, even though it is of course biting the Yuri gimmick. But yeah, for that I just really do think that. I also think he would be a unique weapon user because, well, he's, again, shooting beams of light at people. Like, he doesn't have an actual, he doesn't have a sword, he doesn't have a bow. He's gonna hit you with beams of light. Like, dog, that's so insane. That's actually insane. Like, you can kind of tell how excited I am as I talk about some of these other characters, because this is something I would really like to see, just a badass looking character with holy damage potential. I do think that he could be the first self-holy big damage dealer. Similarly to kind of like Kuja's amp. If you guys don't know, Kuja's holy amp is like 70%, or its holy enchant total is 20% from LD and 50% from BT. Maybe they could do a little bit something similar to Nimbus, but for self, maybe they could do 100% since it's self. Kuja's is party, so 70% holy for party, maybe 100% for self. Maybe that could potentially be a thing. I'm not so against the whole 100% plus meta anymore, because Squall is literally coming in a few days, and he has 130% HP cap. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm kind of making all these sounds here, but that's juicy. But 100% holy enchant would be nice to see, but that's generally it. I just think that having 100% holy would be a thing. And yeah, that's gonna be my number 4 pick. And the number 3 pick would none other be Rikku from Final Fantasy X. I mean, literally, Rikku is copium character number infinity. Like, everybody and their mothers want Rikku in this game. It doesn't help that she's also still stuck in data mine hell, by the way. Thanks, devs. But anyway, everybody wants Rikku. And I want her too. I want Rikku just as much as everybody else wants Rikku. The big reason why I would love to see Rikku, because one, she's the last freaking character from Final Fantasy X. They literally put Bruska before her. They put Bruska before her. Like, actual bruh. Like, they put a character who has no record of being an offensive fighter outside of him being a summoner before the last party member in Final Fantasy X has a fleshed out kid and stuff like that. Now, my inner, you know, defense is saying that Maybe it's because Rikku has too much going for her. There's so much that they can do with Rikku. And that's true, because Riku's unique gimmick in Final Fantasy X was mixing. If you guys don't know what that is, it's when she has the ability to mix a certain set of items to trigger a different effect, i.e. different healing potions to make a stronger healer potion, certain type of items to make special items that can trigger a multitude of buffs. But that could be the thing that she could do, maybe just in buff form, maybe even just having mix as a limited thing. Maybe EX could be like a mix or something, or LD could be a mix, and then just once per turn she can maybe switch up and get a different mix per turn, which is pretty cool. I think I would like that idea. Like maybe have them do like a set of mixes, right? Like a set of mixes that they would want, and then give them a duration or give them damage modifiers appropriately, right? So let's just say Hyper Mighty G, which is the one that gives a lot of buffs in Final Fantasy X. Let's just say it can give us attack and brave damage and HP damage up, right? Let's just say that's gonna be our Hyper Mighty G. Let's kind of maybe make it like a Waka thing, where instead of it being a debuff that ticks down every single turn and it changes itself, it could be a buff that happens every single time on our part that can change itself and then get a different duration. That could be potentially cool to see. Maybe that maybe let it change only on Riku's turn, so that way you could maybe shift it around to where you want it to be, so you can get that Hyper Mighty G and then you can get that good damage output. Or maybe you can even do something like a Chaos Grenade, which is a follow-up every single time an ally attacks. There's so much that you can do with Rikku as a character, and yeah. Now, my inner copium does kick in here when I make this last suggestion, and that is going to be the implementation of Machina Maw. If you guys don't know, that is from Final Fantasy X-2, which is her special dress spear. Now, I would love to see some type of representation of Machina Maw, but since the devs have already kind of canned most ideas for X2, for example, Yuna's floral form and Pain's other form, it could be potentially a thing with Pain's BT. They could very well make her special dress spear for the BT for Pain. That's a thing that could still very much happen. So therefore, I'm not gonna say it's completely canned, since Pain is from X2 and they're gonna have to draw from that X2 bag. So yeah, so part of me is like, they're probably just gonna keep Rikku if they do ever put her in the game. Any day now, devs, can you actually? Because my thirst is dying here. Sing of me, I'm dying of thirst here. But anyway, I would love to just see what she would do. I would just love to see it. I would love to see her be just a all-around good support, maybe with some unique gimmicks and stuff like that. But that's going to be my number 3 pick. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Jihl Nabaat. Now this is where I begin to start simping, my boy. Jet Simprin is in full effect. Anyway, I'm kidding. No, I'm actually not gonna simp. But Jihl Nabaat will be an interesting character to be implemented into this game. I would love to see her EX kind of have like an Aroha effect. If you guys don't know, with Aroha's recent rework, she now basically can double cast her EX. Her first EX is instant turn rate, while the second one is not. So that's essentially a double heal. Essentially a total of 10 dumps, which is not bad. That's actually pretty cool, especially when you are trying to set up turns around her. I would love to see that be a thing for Jihl Nabaat. Now the reason why I want to see that is because she does have 2 ultimate attacks. She has Sadistic Surge and Malicious Surge. Malicious Surge is only after she's absorbed Behemoths in her DLC fight, so maybe she could start with Sadistic and then go to the Malicious Surge, and then that could be a thing. I would also love to see the implementation of her being able to summon enemies onto the field, maybe making it like a follow-up, maybe once per turn she could trigger some type of effect from the enemy, and then stuff like that. For example, she can summon a total of 3 different enemies, which is Nightblade Puma, the Azure Behemoth, and a Psycom Soldier. So what they could do is maybe make Nightblade Puma a single target follow-up. They can make Azure Behemoth maybe like a super hard-hitting AoE attack with extra follow-ups. And they can make Psycom Soldier maybe that could do something for buffs for allies. And maybe just make it like a rotating thing. Maybe rotate it around her EX that can have a fast charge so that you can shift around those effects a little bit quickly maybe. That could be a thing, or maybe just make it a special buff that can be cycled around by maybe using the HP plus maybe. There's a lot of things that you could really go with Nabaat, honestly. For Nabaat herself, I would obviously see her being a debuffer because that's what she was in Final Fantasy 13 too. She was a saboteur character, which basically means, well, debuffing. That's basically what she was good for, which is why I really do want her to kind of be in the game. So if they do put that girl in the game, I'm definitely going to open up the wallet because I do like her a lot. She's actually very cute. But yeah, that's going to be my number 2 pick. And without a shadow of a doubt, my number 1 most requested character of all time is going to none other be Luneth from Final Fantasy III, the remake version, okay? The remake, okay? Now, the big reason why I want Luneth is because I just love him so much. I love that little ball of charisma. Like, I just, like, dude, like, there's something about Luneth that I just generally like. I love his personality, but I know that this is a lot of copium that's leaking out of me faster than a well trying to get its maximum amount of water for the day. Like, it's just so fucking much of copium, because traditionally speaking, devs really don't touch most things coming from remakes. I feel like they like to stick to the original, which is why in BT themes they typically like to use the original themes of songs. Like, they never really use remake versions of songs. If they're ever gonna give a character a theme for a BT, it's always going to be the original themes. And most oftentimes they don't touch remake themes unless under specific cases, which is a little bit disappointing because some remake themes do slap way harder than the originals, of course, but it is what it is. But if the devs do LOL bamboozle me, then I would love to see, well, Luneth kind of be a bit of a wind DPS, as he is, well, chosen by the wind crystal. Now, while okay is ice, I would love to see wind because there's not too much representation of wind as an element neither anymore. We do have Fujin and Bartz that are really the main wind guys these days, but you're not really using either of them, so maybe it would be nice to see Wind get some nice leeway in there. I would love to see him kind of play within the first set of jobs that's available, with maybe like Red Mage, maybe Thief or something. I don't want them to go the Brave Exvius route by making him a Dark Knight, because I kind of get tired of seeing that. Like, I kind of get tired of the whole Dark Knight thing, so I would love for them to just kind of take some unique ones. Like, give me a Geomancer. Like, if they gave me Geomancer Luneth, I would be fine with that. Even though I do think that would be better for Ark, because he's kind of more so like the mage of the group. But you know what I mean? Like, I would love to see that. If anything, I would love to see that. But yeah, I think that's just really just it. I just wanted to be a strong wind DPSer that can support and stuff like that. I thought about giving his abilities dual cast because he's holding 2 swords, but that sounds pretty stupid when Vayne holds like freaking 10. He doesn't hold 10, he holds like 5. But still, you know what I mean? That sounds pretty dumb. Like, come on, calm down, my copium, calm down. But yeah, I would love to see him kind of get the Onion Knight treatment with BT as well, where he gets 2 different animations with 2 different Uding effects based on the job that he is choosing. So if they just say, let's just go Thief and Geomancer, just say Thief and Geomancer, right? I would love to see him get an effect based on Thief, and I would love to see him get an effect based on Geomancer. That would be pretty cool, and I would love to see how Opera Omnia would take a spin on it. Even if they don't give him the job system at all and just make him a straight up freelancer in terms of his outfit, I would just still be happy that he's there. I would just be happy that he's in the freaking game. Like, I wouldn't stop at nothing to pull for that man in this banner. But anyway, that's gonna be it, guys. That is the 10 characters that I want in the City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. I had a lot of fun making this video, actually. It was actually pretty fun just to sit and talk and just have a little bit of fun. So without further ado, I ask you guys the same question. What 10 characters would you want to see in Opera Omnia? I would love to see, well, the characters you just saw, but let me know. Anyway, this has been your boy Tseng. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.